typical reasons we should go to college or we wanted to go in college, because there's people who've already kind of parsed truth. That's not necessarily the way it is anymore, but there's people who've studied and they know what is a valid source. They know what sources are biases, and they can teach people where to get information, because some people are posting as gurus out there, but they actually aren't doing the work, or they don't have the credentials, or their logic is flawed.
Welcome back to It Starts Now, the Happy Hour of Finance and Business. My name is Stan Lane. And once again, you tuned in to season 2. Today's guest, truly inspirational. He's an angel investor in several companies. He also owns a marketing brand, and he has Uplift Community, which is creating so much impact in the world. Please welcome my guest, GF member, Achumboro Ataande. Did I say that correctly?
Achumboro.
Achumboro.
Yes, I meant to actually tell you before we came in.
Well, I know you don't like people not making an attempt on your name instead of cutting it short. I was going to cut it short. And then I remember he said, no, he doesn't like that. So I made an attempt.
I appreciate it. It's different. I understand everybody. I truly appreciate the attempt. So that I'm grateful for that. It actually means there is hope. So I have a middle name, Aaron, but I ask people to always call me my first name, Achumboro, because every time they're saying it, they're stating there is hope for myself, for themselves, for the world. So
that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's why I'm really proactive in having people say my name.
Is that something that was embedded from young, or that as you grew older or wiser, you kind of figured it out?
I think it was as I grew older. When I was young, especially people, you can tell what age range people know me by whether they call me Aaron or Achumboro, because when we came over and I was growing up in the Bronx, I had people call me Aaron for a while, right? My later Aaron, and then when we moved to West, you call me Aaron just because I was more comfortable. I was tired of sticking out, right? I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. But as I started to feel more comfortable and wanting to embrace the blessing over my life in my name, I started embracing the Achumboro side of things.
Yeah. So it's just coming one with yourself.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
You don't strike me as somebody from the Bronx. Bronx don't have no trees. Like, it's a different lifestyle over there, man.
Well, I'm grateful. I think we moved. So we moved from the Bronx when right before high school. And I'm grateful for that in a way. I know many people, we still do a lot of work in the Bronx, but I think I was at a tipping point where I was going to be lost. And I was starting to dive down the wrong path. I wasn't taking school as seriously. I had fallen from a A++ student to like a C student. I wasn't caring as much. So I am grateful for that transition, but I can also understand what is going on and why there are people falling in between the cracks, because I saw that loss of motivation in myself. So yes, I may not strike somebody from the Bronx. I really try to bury some of those old habits, but also something I tell kids and people growing up who come from the Bronx, who come from impoverished neighborhoods, who come from, who are first generation, is the struggles is great for entrepreneurship. Because that is entrepreneurship. It's about resilience, right? That's one of our mentors, Ruben Durancy. He tells us it's always about resilience. You have to stand up and fight another day. And business is the same as growing up in the streets in terms of you have to live and fight another day.
1,000. Not just constantly with your peers or within that neighborhood, but then you're fighting outsiders too. So it's like in business, you're not only trying to get the competitive edge against your competitors, your direct competitors, but then you got to be mindful of what's coming and be prepared for them as well too.
Exactly. Especially as the world gets more global. I think one of the things we say fight a lot, but also understanding that we can collaborate as well. So that's, I think, the mind shift from the Bronx to Westchester in terms of learning that collaboration style and not seeing everybody as a competitor, saying, hey, the pie is large enough, or we can learn and add ingredients and grow the pie.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something as well. But I think one of the things we've been discussing this is traditionally business and competition has moved more global in the terms of products, right? So products, companies have lowered costs by turning labor, getting labor from China, India, etc. I think that's going to move to services as well. We typically we've had that with call centers,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, but other services, tech, security, etc. Soft services, soft skills are also going to start moving, and we're going to have global competition on that end. So understanding that as a business owner, that transition to you're not just fighting who's in your neighborhood or competing against who's in your country, but you're also going to have to eventually compete on the global market because people are going to move towards what gives them the most confidence or what gives them the best price.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Is that part of the reason why you created Uplift?
Yeah, so Uplift actually was a brain idea from.
First, let's circle back a little bit,
Okay.
right? Because not only that, I want you to kind of reintroduce yourself, right?
Mhm.
But tie in what gave you the aspiration to start Uplift. Today's episode was sponsored by Black Mama Vodka. Recent one is the Juneteenth. I always have struggle with this one. Juneteenth tea by Black Mama Vodka. And then this is my favorite right here, which is the chai tea vodka. This, my personal favorite. I like it. I enjoy it. This brand is new. It is actually smooth, the Juneteenth. I enjoyed that as well. And, you know, it's a good to have a black woman, first distillery with her own vodka product brand. So once again, this episode is sponsored by Black Mama Vodka.
So my name again is Achumboro Ataande, and I am an attorney. I also have an advertising and branding company as well as Uplift Communities, and we're doing some investing as well. And one of the things that I wanted to do growing up for the longest is to inspire others to chase wealth, well, become wealthy myself and then inspire others to chase wealth. I always wanted to go back to my neighborhood and talk to the students there about how to create businesses, how to invest and whatnot. But I realized I was thinking of me in their shoes, and I wouldn't listen to somebody unless I knew they did it.
Right.
So my biggest worry was like, okay, I have to wait till I have X amount of dollars before I come back in order to grab their attention. And I was actually sitting here when I first joined GF, Gentleman's Factory. And I was telling Jeff a bit about my dreams and goals, especially when I hit X dollar figure. I wanted to come back and talk to people from the neighborhoods that I grew up in or started off in and tell them how to achieve more in life. And he introduced the idea of government contracting to us. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting, because I thought since I didn't have much time, I wanted like a short 1 hour window, but because of my credentials, because they'll know, because of the money, they'll be more interested in learning from me. However, he showed how we can use government contracting to have a longer time frame with them. So you can, even if you're not at the point where you want to be yet, you're still able to instill the characteristics or skills or lessons within the community that you would want to teach them when you reach the age, fame, dollar figure that you wanted to reach. So that's what we've been doing with Uplift. We've been teaching essentially core skills we think are necessary for success, such as financial literacy, entrepreneurship, life skills, and college and career readiness. And we think those are the four major pillars that people need to thrive in life. You don't need all four of the pillars, but having at least expertise or mastery in one of those will have you live a very fulfilling life. So those are the things we've focused on with Uplift, and the goal eventually is to do that worldwide. But we're starting off in New York City, then going federal, and then overseas as well.
Oh, that's amazing. And what kind of like impact you want to have?
Wow. So there's so much. I'm wondering what I can share and what I can't. So I would say this. So one of the things we want to do is truly change the dynamic of wealth per household in the Black and brown community. And why I say the Black and brown community instead of the general community, I think by changing the wealth in those communities is going to improve the wealth in almost all other facets of communities, right? All other communities. So,
do you think that we're struggling the most, or we're not as informed as most of the other races?
I think statistically we are in the lower income brackets, right? Black and brown households, in terms of if you line up what by ethnicity, what ethnic household makes 40 grand per year. That's the black household. 50 grand per year, 60 grand, 70, 80. They have that breakdown per ethnic group. So I think by figuring it out, that will solve some of the problems that happen predominantly in our community. And therefore that'll make the city more safe, the city better, schools will be better because they'll have more tax dollars if people have better incomes. Neighborhoods will be a bit safer because, this is a hot topic, but crime and poverty kind of go hand in hand, right? So as you increase wealth in the neighborhood, you're also going to reduce crime as well. Education, people be able to learn, plan, travel. Mental health will be better. So there's so many problems we can solve by changing the wealth statistics of the black and brown community.
Now, and I agree with you 100%, right? But the argument can also be said that there's a lot of information right now, and people could tap into it, and still these neighborhoods are still driven with crime and violence, even though the information of financial literacy is being published more frequently than ever before.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that there is a lot of information out there, and this is one of the best times to be alive in terms of the search for knowledge. What I would say, and I love one of the things I've been doing for the last 2 years is reading 100 books a year, and this year I'm doing 200 books a year.
I don't mean to interrupt you. That's amazing, by the way, because every time you read a book, you share it on LinkedIn. And I like that. But go ahead.
Thank you. But one of the things, I say that because it's not as easy. I'm saying that as somebody who reads and structures myself. It's not as easy to just pick up a book and read it and say the information's out there. Because the typical reasons we should go to college or we wanted to go in college, because there's people who've already kind of parsed truth. That's not necessarily the way it is anymore. But there's people who've studied and they know what is a valid source. They know what sources are biases, and they can teach people where to get information, because some people are posting as gurus out there, but they actually aren't doing the work, or they don't have the credentials, or their logic is flawed. Let's just say that. So there's a lot of information out there, but there's also a lot of misinformation out there. And we still need people to be able to point our communities in the right directions to go after the right things. But then again, it does also come into mindset and internal motivation. At some point, there has to be a switch that's flipped, and somebody wants to learn that on their own or pushing themselves. But it's all incremental. So we have to do what we can to push a few people in the right direction, and hopefully we hit that tipping point where people and families are searching for information on their own and really scaling up their skills.
What do you think is like the restraint from having that paradigm shift? Like, what are some of the restraints that you see personally?
There's many. I think we are allowing media to negatively affect us, our wants, our interest, our beliefs about ourselves. So I think there really has to be a shift in the music we listen to. I think there has to be a shift in the TV shows we watch or what we glamorize, because one of the things that I've learned, I'm learning to, one thing, if you ever want to be successful, watch what successful people do or listen to what they tell you. And why I say that, a few years ago, Rob, he used to tell me that he did affirmations, right? And I was like, I don't need affirmations. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Affirmations and mindset and positive mindset, and that he would go in the mirror and beat his chest
Yeah.
and do those things to pump himself up. And me sitting there with maybe a few $100s in my bank account, I'm talking to a millionaire like, I'm not, you don't know what
Yeah,
you're talking
yeah,
about. And
yeah.
that's what I'm thinking in my head, right?
Right.
And but just learning so many things over the last few years and seeing how much of mindset and the voice you hear the most every day is your internal voice.
Correct.
So if we don't change our internal voice, then we're still going to continue doing the things we do. So I think one of the biggest things we have to is change the things that influence our internal voice.
Yeah.
So if it's someone's telling us to kill each other or hyping that up, we have to stop that, because that every time we do that, we're devaluing our neighbors, our fellow human beings, and then we're also devaluing ourselves because other people are listening to that, and we're also having a less view of who we are as a human being. So
I agree 100%. Here's the thing that, from my own perspective, is that when you listen to a certain type of music, it does lower your vibration frequency. And then you're operating at a low rate versus operating at a high frequency where you can be at a stage of creation. Now, affirmations do work, but only if there's some emotions attached to it. A lot of times we just go in the mirror and just say these words, but there's no emotional connection. And that emotional connection develop over time when you start to believe it. But you have to give it enough time to manifest in your belief system.
Yep.
For it to actually start to take effect. But it does work, and with the right frequency, it can really elevate you a lot quicker. But I'm glad you touched on those restraints that we have in our communities.
And I also want to be transparent. There's times where I don't want to say relapse, but there's times where I do throw on something and I want to hear some artists. And in the past, when I was younger, I also listened to that music a lot. So I don't want to just have this holier than thou moment, but we do need to change what we listen to, what we read, what we watch, and what we eat as well, because nutrition's a part of it. But as you were saying,
no, I agree. I listen to a lot of music, but I understand the difference now. I think when you're more conscious, you become aware, like, okay, this can have an effect on me, but let me listen to it just to listen to it, not take it literally and start acting on certain things. And I think a lot of times, and when I was younger too, when listening to rap, I used to take it literally, right? Literally, like, okay, this is the lifestyle because this is your environment. This is what you see, and it correlates with what you're actually listening to.
yeah,
And so you start to have this belief, like this is it. But then as you get older, then you start to realize, and I have a few rappers and producer friends, and they share with their lifestyle is nothing like that anymore because they're removed, right? But they still have that type of music because that's their sound or that's their thing. But they're removed from that action, so it's completely different, But you found ways to reinvent yourself several times.
yes,
Right?
yes,
From being in the Bronx to becoming an attorney, to becoming an investor, and then now managing business. So, like, how were you able to reinvent yourself so many times and still be authentic?
Wow, that's a good question. I think every time I reinvented myself, I was mostly looking for the better version of me, right? The better version of me. And I went to law school with the mindset of, what do I have to do in order to give myself the best chance to succeed? So I always wanted to, growing up, I wanted to be a M&A lawyer, a corporate lawyer, excuse me. I didn't know about M&A yet. M&A stands for mergers and acquisitions. I wanted to be a corporate lawyer, and I have never even met a lawyer in the Bronx. Never met one. And so I wanted, but that and an astronaut. I wanted to be those two things. But after I decided to go to law school, it was more, I believe that law school is a boot camp for life in terms of the way they teach us. They teach us to know the granular details, but also see the big picture. And that's life. You have to be able to be great. You have to be able to do both, be able to get in at a granular level, but also see the forest from the trees. So that was, I always viewed as a stepping stone. And on top of that, I didn't have family it was just me and my mom and my youngest sister. I don't have like people who could connect me. So I felt a law degree from a great school would give me the credentials to come and walk in and be respected versus, I don't want to say just graduating for college. For me, I didn't see that as a way for me to get the opportunities I needed. So everything I've done has been a stepping stone, or I've learned that on the ways, this isn't who I want to be. This isn't the end of my journey. Like, okay, what's the next challenge? What do you want to do? And that's really pushed me into this investor / Uplift Communities role, which both of those things I think I'll be doing for the rest of my life because I love it.
That's dope. Let's think about this for a second. I'm trying to get your honest opinion. If you had no concerns in the world, right, and there was nothing that you accomplished so many things, but let's just look at it from this ideal point or this framework. Like, if I had no concerns, no nothing, what would be my main focus on? Would it be continuing as an attorney, focusing on business, or being an investor? What you would give somebody, like, what would be your actual passion if you had no cares in the world?
So I would actually try to refine that question for me, because then my cares would turn from my internal cares to my internal, meaning my cares of taking care of my family and myself, to external, where I'm just focusing on helping the world with its problems. Or so if I had all my internal needs taken care of, all my internal cares, I know. So there's this thing that I've always wanted to do. I have no idea why, but it's always been in my heart. It's always been, I would keep on investing. I'll keep on running business because I just love business. Building it up. One of my favorite things now is Fridays. We have some people on team, and I love paying out people. Like, we've changed some lives. And people and they're so grateful. And we've hired great people too, who, like, every time they say thank you, and like they really love being paid paid what they're paid. And it feels great to be able to do that. So I'll still run business because I like providing and working with people like that. Investing too, I want to invest in 1,000 startups and help entrepreneurs get off the ground. Well, maybe not get up and running and really flying is what I would say. But the thing that's in my heart is always in my heart. I don't even know. I want to build running water in, like, Africa, communities in Africa. And I don't know anything about plumbing. I don't know, but I always thought it's so important. Like, if you can take one struggle where in certain villages or certain towns, people have to walk to a well and grab water and bring it back to the house, right? If you can cut out that time frame where they're doing that, they're carrying these loads, fetching water, not able to have sanitary toilets, it can truly cut out 2, 3, 4, 5 hours out of their day, where now they're having a more efficient home, so they can spend more time studying, they can spend more time improving themselves, they can spend more time with family, and they can work on other skills. So I'm thinking water, but lately me and my wife, we went around the world for 9 months, Asia and Africa. And we went in East Africa, something that I really learned about communities and stuff like that is the importance of infrastructure. Like, we take that for granted. So I was thinking infrastructure with running water, but now I'm seeing, in Kenya, they were burning trash, right? So now, we had to leave actually, because after we were getting heart palpitations. We couldn't breathe just because of the air pollution. So don't get me wrong, there's a lot of amazing things about Kenya, but I think if you were able to cut out that air pollution and actually have garbage pickups and disposals, it can lead to a much better life, better sidewalks, better roads, that transportation system. I think one of the reasons the U.S. became a global power is because we had an amazing road infrastructure. So if we're able to, I'm thinking that first I was thinking with plumbing, but later on maybe we'll add some infrastructure, whether it's sewage, roads. I don't know if we'll do sanitary, because I want to build something that other people, I don't know if I want to be monitoring what's going on day to day with garbage pickups and disposal. But those types of things I think would focus on, because that'll let that'll let people invest more in those regions. People can grow older because they're not dying from air pollution, smog, etc. So those are some things I think we would focus on if, when, let me not say if,
Yeah, when.
affirmations, right? When hit that internal goal of taking care of myself and my family.
That's interesting. I actually was watching a YouTuber. I don't know his name, but I'm gonna put it down in the I'm gonna link it somehow. I'm gonna figure it out. But he said the same thing. If you could save people at least 10 minutes of their time, you'll be an instant billionaire. Because the problem with the problem solving is the key to problem solving is really figuring out how to save people time. And if you could save people time, that's saving them money. And then in the long haul, you could become a billionaire. Not saying that's why you're doing it, because you have a passion for it, it's in your heart. But what he's saying is, if you want to become a billionaire, quickly, solve those type of problems, that's gonna save people time. And that would save people tremendous time, because that's a significant amount of back and forth journey per day to get water.
Yep.
Because you need water to cook, you need water to bathe, you need water for all these essential things that you do daily, and to make that commute back and forth, that's a lot of time. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, time and energy. Saving people time and energy can really improve the world and make people a lot of money if you have a business idea that does one of those things.
Yeah. Now I know you love business. You said it earlier. That's one of your passions. What's some of the areas that you had to improve on to make you a better business person?
What isn't an area that I had to improve on? So one thing I learned from a friend, John Delia. He is a real estate mogul based in Ohio. And one of the things I learned from talking with him is systems. Systems, oh my goodness. So building structures and systems that isn't depending on just you working, trying to automate things, hiring people, putting in programming, schedules, platforms that systematize what you do. So that's something I'm still working on and getting up, but that's why I'm talking about hiring people. Before my first couple of ventures, my first venture, I didn't really have a team, right? No, I had a team later, but I didn't system it. It was based so much on how much I worked, right? I had to manage things. I didn't have a structure. I didn't have a
You didn't know how to delegate at that time.
I didn't know how to delegate things that I could do. Okay. I knew how to delegate because we had
responsibilities that was already formatted for it. Like,
yes.
This is your job description. This is it. But there's other things on your plate that you had to learn how to delegate. Okay.
So like we had tech developers. I knew how to delegate that because I can't write code. So I could, but anything that fell into something that I could potentially do, I didn't know how to delegate. So understanding that, and I would say half of my conversations with my business partner, Julius Caranda, is about, okay, who can we hire? What can we do to get this done? Who can we help bring on to get this done? So that shift in mindset in terms of hiring and using platforms to get work done more efficiently has been a hard switch. It's one of the biggest things I needed to change. Working on humility. I think we were talking about this before, right? Oh my goodness, coming out, I was so, I was so proud. And you talked about it came from insecurity, right? Yeah. It came from insecurity and thinking that I had to pretend to have it all figured out to really get things across. But learning that, and that's something else I learned from Julius and other people in terms of how to be really humble and just ask for help. That's one of the biggest things I've been working on the last 3 years, learning to ask for help. Saying, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. I don't know how to do this. This is a gap that I have. And saying, do you have any suggestions on that? And being vulnerable. And it actually ingratiates people to you. At first I was worried it'll push people away, but it brings people, because it makes you real.
Yeah.
And they also know that you're not trying to get over on them.
No.
So that's something I'm still, even though I'm still working to stay in that stage and be more vulnerable. You always have to be smart, of course, but being able to ask people for suggestions, advice, and not just pretend that you have it all together.
Yeah. One of the, and we talked about this earlier. It's like growing up, we never taught about to really embrace our feelings and to be aware of what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're taught to be strong, especially men, right? We're taught to be strong, not to cry, not to have these weaknesses, right? But as you get older, you start to realize that if I don't embrace these weaknesses, how can I improve, right? I have to realize my deficiencies and say, hey, I have a lot of shortcomings when it comes to this, so I need to work on that. But you first have to acknowledge it. And a lot of times we have this huge insecurities that's probably stem from, a lot of damage from growing up, and, it's a buildup. But as you get older and you start to ask for help, like you said, and be vulnerable and say, hey, listen, this is where I'm trying to go. Can you help me get there? And people are more likely to, because they know that you're being authentic and it's being true, right? And people don't mind helping because they know they've been in that situation and someone helped them out, So it's a good thing. But I think we probably ran out of everything I wanted to ask you, right?
That's okay. That's okay.
But here's the thing, last thing. This platform is for young entrepreneurs and creators to go get started on their dreams. Right. So what is the one advice that you would give to someone that has aspirations on becoming successful, whether it's an attorney, whether it's a business person, whatever it is, what one key advice that you would give to get people started in their career and their journey?
I'm going to cheat and give two. I'm going to cheat and give two.
So that means these two are very important for you.
I'm going to cheat and give two. I think first thing is study the successes. Find out who is the person you want to be in life. Or if you have to mash up different people in different sectors, that's okay. It doesn't necessarily have to be in your particular. Find out them and then break down their story. Try to figure out, okay, how did they get from where they are? Where did they come from and how did they get to where they ended up? And I think that is something. Success always leaves clues. Like you have to look for them, and they're not going to be just standing in front of you on what to do. But ask people those, find out that and reach out to them if you can and say, hey, this is what I'm looking at. I think you're great in this. If there's any way I can help you, please let me know. But I would definitely love to find out about how you went from point A to point B whenever you have 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Don't ask them for 30 an hour, but 5-10 minutes, go to them. If you ask 100 people, you can get 10 people who would say yes to that. So that's the first thing. Find the right people to model your life after. Second thing is work hard. Work hard because there's going to be so many mistakes. Mistakes is part of the game.
It's part of the game.
It's fun. So it's not like school where you miss this, you don't get 100, that means you fail. No, you can actually get 10% and still make $10 million. You just have to stay in the game, keep working hard, not make lazy or let's say just don't make lazy mistakes, but working hard. It's crazy. One of the things that I love about Julius and anybody we're really close to is we're here. It can be, okay, we have a project, we're going to stay all night because we have to get this to client. Like being able to work hard is such a key part of the game that most people overlook because it covers up those mistakes. If you're making a lot of mistakes, but you're working around them, it's going to give you a longer runway. So those are two things that I would say are helpful. But I do also want to commend you because I saw you've been doing this and I think it's really hard to be consistent, right? It's really hard to be consistent, you and your partner. And we talked about team and structure, right? Yeah. So now if you were just here running everything, that would be very difficult. But I think it's fantastic that you're continuing. And I bet you feel that you're growing every single day. And I loved that you didn't say this is a podcast, right? I love that you didn't say that this is a podcast. So always having that bigger vision and not being a limiting factor of yourself. So congratulations, you both are doing amazing, and especially today's a Saturday, so you're pushing it. Yeah. So I love that.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you for coming out on a Saturday.
Awesome. It's my pleasure.
I said, one thing I've been taught that work doesn't end when when the project is done, that doesn't mean the work ends. There's other things you could do, but a lot of times something ends and then we go to the next. We take a break and then we go. It takes a long time to build that momentum again. And one thing I've read, Jim Collins' book, where he talks about the flywheel, and you have to keep working it until build the momentum until finally is running on its own. But till then, you got to push it. It's a flywheel, so you got to keep pushing it and add in the momentum. So it's good when you speak to people like yourself, because it's a reminder, it's a refresher every time to say, okay, we got to work a little bit harder. We got to put a little bit more effort into whether it's execution, whether it's the communication, whatever it is. They should be, to your point, always trying to get better and see what the next level of yourself can be.
That's true.
Yeah, so I appreciate that, and thank you so much for coming out.
You.
Hey, I know you still do attorney.
Sometimes. Very little.
Very little now.
very little.
Now.
Yes.
But if somebody wanted to reach out to you, because I'm be honest with you, the things that he puts on LinkedIn, I really enjoy the books, the recommendation, things like that. But if somebody wanted to tap in with you, what's a good place?
I think it would be LinkedIn, Achumboro Ataande, my first and last name, or emailing me at achumboro@upliftcommunities.com, because as I said, that's something I'm going to be doing for the next till I retire. That's something I'll be doing, and probably even after I retire. My kids and grandkids are probably going to have to pry me away. So that's something that hopefully an email that I will always use.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, guys, this is it. Thank you so much. We'll leave all the information in the description so that way you can reach out to him, reach out to us. We on IG, we on YouTube, we on all these TikToks and all the other social media platforms. Once again, my name is Stan Lane. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and please share this content because he drops so much information. Have a good night.